We have had dueling news conferences. The head of the Border Patrol, Greg Vino, scheduled a 2 p.m. news conference for today. And then after that, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota scheduled his own 2 p.m. news conference. Walz started a few seconds before Bovino did. So we are going to cue up the tape of the recording of Bovino's remarks. And we will play that for you in equal time in just a moment. In the meantime, let's bring in Bernard Zapor, retired ATF special agent in charge who spent part of his service time in Minnesota. You heard what Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison had to say there during that news conference, I hope, Bernard. Your remarks, your thoughts.
You know, everything is so emotional and exacerbated. So it's very difficult to discern really truth in what's happening. There are two things that stand out very contrary, at least for me, spoken by the governor and the AG, and that was that the two recent people involved that were shot were just going about their business. They were, in fact, engaging with law enforcement and agitating. And so there's a commonality with that. It doesn't really have any impact on the justification for the use of force. That will only be determined, again, with a very professional microscopic investigation. I mean, my recommendation here would simply be that they should be doing, ICE or DHS could certainly be doing this in conjunction with the Minnesota BCA, which is a super competent organization, and just put sunlight on it and do that shooting investigation, both of them together. They have the ability to do that. I think that would be a really good idea. And secondly, modifying the operation to really make it specific to a targeting list. That's how ICE normally proceeds, is that they have their list of unlawful, illegal aliens that are here. Usually they have a criminal background or a terrorism tie. You go and attack that list and get those people removed. So it's a very safe, effective removal operation, rather than this large-scale search thing, which at this point is now being, and it's very complex because of the agitation, the riots, and of course the perception of these two shootings that are really being perpetuated not quite accurately by the governor and the AG.
Yeah, the governor, I think, mixed some language when he suggested that the federal agents were trampling on the rights of U.S. citizens. The people that they're going after are not U.S. citizens. They are illegal immigrants.
Very much so. And, but again, at this point, it is so exacerbated. They need to let the air out of it to be effective. The removal operations are not going to be effective going forward because of what is happening. I would let these two investigations be completed with the results would be released by the U.S. Attorney's Office or a grand jury, and then move forward with, again, the removal operations in a very specific and targeted way.
I don't know what ultimately is going to be decided by juries or investigations in these two shootings, but it does seem to me that there's kind of an imbalance in the perceptions here. The two shootings are front page news. We're covering them. Other media are covering them virtually wall to wall, and obviously people get upset when people are killed. On the other hand, authorities have successfully located and removed a number of terrible criminals, accused criminals and convicted criminals from Minnesota as part of this operation. And those really don't make headlines because they go away, those folks.
Very much so. And, law enforcement use of force is a very complex issue in any circumstance. Even if you had something clearly, like, say, a local law enforcement encounter with somebody who was armed, there's always going to be, based on perception, video that people see in the public without complete perspective. So that's why, use of force investigations are investigated like a homicide, where you have to exploit every bit of technology and every possible perspective so you can see the collective as to what happened. In these shootings, it's just that much more complicated because of what's happening on the streets there in Minneapolis and the agitation. And then, of course, we're in the era of, somebody's can perpetuate an idea or a rumor in a way that gets serious traction. It just interferes with, again, a very decisive, clear, and professional investigation.
How confident are you that they are going to be able to investigate these two shootings and, come to accurate conclusions accurate conclusions, I guess?
I am confident that they will, DHS and its OPRSO equivalent. However, I don't think those findings will be accepted by the people that are agitating and perpetuating the violence there now. That's why, again, it would probably be to the advantage of everybody if they had BCA do it in conjunction with them. So they came out with a conclusion that was both found accurate by the state and by the federal authorities.
But has the governor and the mayor driven a wedge between the two law enforcement agencies, that is, the federal authorities versus the state and local authorities?
I think perception and what has been happening certainly has. This would be a difficult thing, but if you allow the investigative agencies like DHS's internal affairs component, their shooting review team, and the Minnesota BCA to work collectively, all of that noise is going to disappear because they are immune from really the political influence, and they're on the purity of the investigation and the facts, the technology, everything that reveals information as to what happens. And that's how we have an accurate, sterile, and just outcome of both investigations.
Bernard Zapor, thank you.